Good afternoon and welcome to our DMAC Professional Skills event. Thank you all for being here. My name is Jill Hoig with DMAC and I will be your host today. So we are very excited to be partnering with SNS Employment Partners on this virtual event about personal brand and social media. And our hope really with this event is that it'll provide you with insight on how to promote yourself on an individual level and build your personal brand. So with that, I would love to introduce our presenter for today, Isabel Sergi. Isabel is a recruiter for SNS Employment Partners, the go-to employment services company for businesses and job seekers here in the Des Moines metro area. So again, thank you, Isabel, for your time today. I also want to just go over a couple housekeeping items for our presentation today. If you have any questions for Isabel at all throughout her presentation, feel free to leave them in the chat and I will get those questions over to her. So that is one way, or you can kindly unmute yourself and do it that way too. And then the other thing is we just love to know who's on the call. So if you're an individual student, we'd love to know your name and what high school you're with and maybe what grade you're in. And then I know we have a couple educators on the call too. So if you would just put maybe what school you're with and then how many students are joining you in the room, we would love to know that too as well. Well, that kind of wraps up my housekeeping items. I would love to, again, hand it over to Isabel Sergi, again, a recruiter with SNS Employment Partners, to talk a little bit more about personal brand and social media. Thanks again, Isabel.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Jill. And welcome everybody. Thank you for taking the time to listen. As she said, I am with SNS Employment Partners. I am a recruiter. We focus on the local Des Moines area, working on permanent placement, temporary and temp to hire roles with our areas of expertise in office administration, customer service, sales and marketing, human resources, and accounting and finance. So whenever y'all are looking for jobs in the next few years, feel free to reach out to us. We would love to help y'all out. But we are going over personal brand and social media today. So without further ado, so first off, what is personal branding? Personal branding is ultimately what you stand for as a person and how people will remember you. It helps define and promote what you are as an individual, and it's ultimately that lasting impression that you leave on those around you. So it's what somebody thinks of first when they think about who you are as a person. So the reasons people go towards personal branding, it makes you stand out in a crowd. It helps lead to new opportunities. That opportunity could be to education, it could go to DMAC, it could go to other colleges, employment opportunity, but it will affect that as well. It also brings you a familiarity with people around you. People feel like they know you when you have an online presence and you have one thing that you're very strong with. And ultimately, one of the best reasons for personal branding is people always check social media. I know with us here at SNS, we are constantly checking when we have candidates apply, we're checking their social medias. We want to see what is that first screen grab that we see when we look at a profile, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, or even LinkedIn, of course. But we want to see what is the main thing that is sticking out about this person and what is that impression that they're looking to make on others around them. So how to build that brand? You need to figure out what keeps you motivated, what subjects pique your interest, and you have to align your values with your goals. What is a goal that you have? So I know most of y'all are in high school. Are sports something that you're passionate about? Is that something that keeps you motivated? Is it art? Is it history? What is something that you want somebody to know about you? So let's say, you're a baseball player. Am I going to see that if I go to your Instagram and look? Or am I just going to see that you go out and party a lot? You need to make sure that your social media reflects what you want others to know about you. What you're passionate about is something that you should be posting more often than, like I said, going out and partying. So social media is the #1 way to show your personal brand. If we look at all of these icons, I guarantee most of you probably have at least 3 of these. There's Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, YouTube, all of them. And some of them I'm not even familiar with. But all of those reflect who you are as a person. Even the comments that you make when you send a Venmo. If something is off, that can ultimately affect what happens to you going forward in life. You never know, but every social media account, it does count for what you do in the future. So first off, we're going to talk about positives of social media, because social media is, of course, not all negative. But social media can help strengthen relationships and make new connections with those around you. And it can ultimately help find support when you're going through tough times. It can promote better lifestyle habits and help introverted personalities connect through a way that they couldn't in person. It reduces stigma and sparks awareness. That's very big right now. And it can also be used to discuss school assignments. Of course, I know that's probably not something you want to talk about, but it is good for that as well. And overall, it does help foster a creative voice. So now we're going to talk about those challenges that social media can cause and that you will face in it. Cyberbullying is a big problem with social media, so definitely be aware of that when using it. It can cause a reduced attention span as well. And it can also help, or not help, but it can also cause you to compare yourself to those that you find on social media. So you do have to be aware that not all social media is positive, and you have to take each thing with a grain of salt. So, and it's also can cause data theft and information abuse, even tech addiction, can even cause fear of missing out or FOMO. And it can also lead to isolation. If you feel that, you do already have a good presence online, it can possibly lead you to, lead to that decrease of face-to-face interaction. So you definitely don't want that, because moving forward in life, you're going to need to be able to face people in person, especially when it comes to employment opportunities, or even just going out in your community or your day-to-day life. You need to be able to make sure that you're able to function well and properly. So impacts to your personal brand. Simply by having a social media account, you have created an online reputation, and that online reputation, it is there forever. So any comment, post, or photo, do not simply think that, oh, if I delete it, it won't be there later. It is there to stay, and it is there to stick around. So, definitely take that into account. Anything and everything that you say online, it is there forever. Employers, colleges, and people in the community will judge your social media platform. So like I said earlier, if you're just posting photos of you partying all the time, even as simple as your grandmother, if she is seeing it, is that something that you want her to see? So do take that into account when posting things on social media. So remember, think before you post. These are some major people that have had who have been part of cancel culture recently. So the first one that I want to talk about is Gina Carano. She made a post on Instagram and she voiced her political views. She was employed by Disney to work in the show The Mandalorian, and she shared a post on social media that compared being a Republican today to the experience of Jewish people during the Holocaust. Her views did not align with the views of Disney, so she was ultimately let go and she lost her job due to a post that she made on Instagram. The next one I want to talk about is Jenna Marbles. Jenna Marbles was one of the first sensations of YouTube. She was a huge star. In 2020, a video resurfaced that was nearly already a decade old. She left YouTube after the video showed her in blackface impersonating Nicki Minaj. And again, that video was already a decade old at the time. So whether her views were the same as they are now or back then, whether they change or not, it doesn't matter, because that was left online for everyone to see and everyone to find. After that came out, her YouTube channel, all of her social media accounts are no longer, and she has lost the potential revenue and income of social media. The next one is James Charles. James Charles is probably somebody that y'all are pretty familiar with. He is a famous makeup artist on YouTube as well. But what he recently got in trouble for was sending messages to underage boys on Snapchat. Snapchat is a big one. I find that people think, nobody's going to find out. It's my private stuff. Snapchat is lasting. It is forever, whether you think so or not. So definitely take that into account, what you're sending to people. His messages were found, and the explicit photos and messages that he was sending were ultimately to underage boys. So he was in trouble and ultimately lost millions of followers and branding deals. The next one is that I'm talking about is Hilaria Baldwin. Hilaria Baldwin is known for being married to Alec Baldwin. She built her personal brand around being from Spain and often spoke with a Spanish accent, so people assumed that she was actually from Spain. However, one day she went on an Instagram Live, similar to Facebook Live, but on Instagram, and she forgot to speak with her Spanish accent, and people got confused, and they ultimately found out that she is not from Spain. She's from Boston. She's a born American. And due to that, she ultimately lost her brand as a person, and she lost the respect of her fans. And now she's known as the person who's faking being from Spain, which is very embarrassing. So that's a good example for also in your daily life. If you're pretending to be something that you're not, it will come back to bite you. So you need to remember that. And lastly, Chrissy Teigen. She is a model married to John Legend. She had tweets resurfaced from 2011, again, something a decade old, and it showed her bullying people and telling them to die. She lost her role as a narrator in Netflix, and her cookware line disappeared at Macy's, and she also was dropped from a Bloomingdale's deal. She lost a lot of money, a lot of respect from her fans and her community members, and her life ultimately changed because of something that she had posted nearly a decade ago on Twitter. So all of these people, they're great examples of why you need to be aware of anything that you post, anything that you say. It can be used against you, and it can ultimately hurt you in the long run. So the takeaway from this is social media is an excellent way to promote yourself and your brand. However, if done incorrectly or carelessly, it can lead to negative impacts on your future. You need to be safe and be smart with your posts, and remember that, show your passions, show what you strive for in life. And if you keep doing that, you shouldn't have any issues on social media. Okay. Are there any questions that y'all might have?
I have a couple, I guess, comments and maybe some input from you, Isabel, too. When we talk about digital footprints and that type of thing. And I think another thing that goes along with not even just social media, but like Googling yourself and just seeing what comes up too, right? Because sometimes there's information on there that you don't even know how people got, like where you live and all of those type of things too, that if you can be a little bit more proactive in if someone were to Google you, what would come up, or if you had the same name as someone else or something like that. So I think that that's a good thing to do as well. Because I know like in high school and stuff, if you're a part of a lot of activities, there's a lot of articles and that type of thing. So sometimes it can be great too. Great things pop up. So that's one thing. And then another thing I like to touch on too is people's emails. Sometimes you make an email when you're really, really young and, it may not have a professional spin to it. So if you are a high school student that potentially has an email that is something that is for a younger audience, maybe it's time to elevate that to maybe your name at Gmail or something like that. And with that too, your voicemail. I know a lot of your generation doesn't like voicemails and like to use them, but if you are in the process of looking for a job and getting callbacks from employers and that type of thing, we certainly want our voicemail to sound appropriate. Sometimes I call students and they like fake say hello and then they're like, haha, got you. If you could make that a little bit more professional, that's another thing too. That's kind of your personal brand, right? If someone were to call you, and how you sound on the phone. And with that too is like a handshake, as well. When you meet people, it doesn't even have to be in a professional setting, but when you're out and about meeting people and that type of thing, having and knowing how to handshake somebody. And it looks like we do have a question in the chat. If you are trying to brand yourself as a musician or artist, how do you find the marketing research to pick what platforms will expand your views? Isabel, do you have any insight on that?
So if you're trying to brand yourself as a musician, obviously, I'm not an artist in that way, so I can't say exactly. I know a lot of people use SoundCloud and just Instagram and Facebook, your general accounts. But yeah, definitely do your research when it comes to promoting yourself as a musician or any form of an artist, something that you're trying to sell about yourself. Definitely do the research to see what actually shows for it. But again, when it comes to your social media accounts, if you want people to know that you're a musician, definitely post those things. Post those drums, post those guitars, post you with those. Avoid those things like I said, partying earlier. If that's not something you want someone to know about yourself, don't post it online. If you want them to take you seriously as an artist, make sure you are promoting that.
Yes, good advice. And then someone else asked, how do you reach out to companies to create a collaboration?
So as far as collaborating, I know as far as collaborating, what type of collaboration would you be looking for to promote an actual item to sell? Is that what they're looking for?
Yeah, or maybe, if they're in high school and maybe, want to, if they are a musician or something like that, and they run a business, to maybe be a musician, a part of like an event with them, I'm assuming maybe too. I know a lot of websites have like emails and general managers' numbers and that type of thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. And then, going in person to that company, it's always a good thing. It shows that you're more serious about something than just sending an email with no face or name to it.
Yeah, and I know here at DMAC, we have a lot of like culinary students and photography students, and they do such a great job of starting to post all of what they do, not only in class, but what they do at home too, because it's kind of showing. So when they're out and about meeting with people, they can say, hey, I actually made this, and show them their account and to follow along and that type of thing. So you're right about posting all the work that you do. And then the follow-up to that, Isabel, was to use their product on your social media page to increase sales or views.
Okay, so a sponsorship. I am not a social media expert. So as far as sponsorship goes, I do not necessarily know, but my best bet would be saying go in person to that company and sell yourself, sell your own personal brand, and see if that's something that they want to partake in.
Yeah, that's great. And I also think too, one thing is, I think sometimes when students post whatever they're interested in, you may get personal messages or comments or what have you that are feedback or sometimes criticism or what have you, which I know can be difficult in some ways, but I think it's great to put your stuff out there and receive feedback too as well, right? Just knowing what other people are thinking of certain things. And then I also think too, again, personal brand, being younger, I also think that it would be awesome to kind of have, because you never know who you're going to run into or that type of thing, is kind of just have like a basic pitch of to know how to share your experiences and skills to somebody, just in a quick sentence or two, just kind of knowing how to say that. So when you're put on the spot, it can be a little bit more professional sounding than
Yep. I
yeah.
definitely suggest practicing beforehand, because there's nothing worse than going somewhere and then just saying you definitely want to know how to talk about yourself.
Right. And then another person said, let's say I was a freshman in high school. I posted some crazy things on my social media platforms. Now that I'm a senior and applying to colleges and for jobs, is there a way to clean up the mess I made several years ago? Can I rebrand myself in a sense?
Absolutely, you can for sure rebrand yourself. If you haven't already, I would go through and clean up your entire social media. If you know what's on there is doing nothing but reflects you in a negative light, um, just delete them. Just delete everything you can. And then going forward, just know that, anything that you post would have that impact. So just make sure that going forward, you maintain the image that you want to uphold.
Absolutely. And I know, Isabel, you and I had conversations about what would you say to high school students that don't really have a lot of, work experience? Do you suggest that they still have a LinkedIn profile and say that they're a student, or what do you see as a recruiter? Are there high school students with LinkedIn, or do you suggest they wait till college, or what are your thoughts on that as a recruiter?
So as a recruiter, I do definitely interview people who graduate from high school. We do have entry-level positions. Most of them do require that high school diploma. But when it comes to LinkedIn, it is not anything that harms them or is unhelpful if they don't have a LinkedIn. Quite honestly, I don't expect people to really have LinkedIn until they get to that college age, usually 20 years and older. That's not the rule. It's just, I don't think it hurts them to not have a LinkedIn account at their age. If you want to create one and explore what LinkedIn is, I highly recommend it. It's a great tool and platform to learn more about, the career world and learn what you want to do and who you want to be. But by no means do I think that you have to have one at this age. And I don't think that any college is going to judge you for not having a LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I also think too, I think it's a great way for students that are, looking at what they want to do and getting to know businesses that have those positions, and maybe starting to learn more about companies in their area, or if they were looking to move. I think it's a great way to get connected with businesses and knowing what positions come open and that type of thing. And even I don't know how you feel about it as a recruiter, Isabel, but if you had, a high school student reach out to you that maybe had their eye on a certain job that didn't have the credentials, but reached out to you and say, hey, like, how would I get a position like this? Are you open to those conversations when people reach out to you via email or on
Absolutely.
LinkedIn?
Yeah, and that's something that LinkedIn does. It helps you create connections with people. And whether that connection leads you to a job or not, you can always learn more about how to get that job that you want going forward. So, and that's another thing. If anybody wants to reach out to me and learn how to set up a career plan or a career path, I'd be happy to go through that with you.
Awesome. And then someone else asked, what would be an appropriate email address for me to use? Should I use my school email address or make up a new one? Is it better to use Gmail instead of something else when creating an email address?
So I would say the best thing to do is create a Gmail. I always tell my candidates who are using school email addresses, don't do it, because let's say I have your contact info and it's your school email address. In a few years, you won't be in school, and 9 times out of 10, you're not checking that school email address. So create a Gmail account or any other account that you have access to as well. I know some people use Yahoo still, but you can do that. And the best one I always say is first and last name. If your first and last name is already taken by chance, you can always put in a middle initial as well. And most of the time that works out. But, I have seen people come across my desk and their email accounts are unicornglitter@aol.com. is stuff like that. And it's not professional, it's not appropriate. So, definitely stick to the basics.
Well, I even think too, being a recruiter, you probably get a lot of emails and such. And so you're not really branding yourself if your email is unicorn glitter, right? They want to know who your name is to kind of put the pieces like, oh yeah, I received an email from Jill or whatever. You're branding yourself also with that email with your name too as well. But that's a great point with the school email. It does go inactive after a while. So it is probably good to utilize one that you will have access to until you want to delete it, I guess. So great point. Do we have any other questions in the chat? I want to be respectful of people's time. We'll wrap up here if nobody else has any other questions. But Isabel, I just want to thank you again for your time and insight on this topic. I know that it's always kind of a hard one to speak about because there's so many different ways to brand yourself, good and bad, I think, too, that we just kind of touched the surface. But great advice nonetheless for young people looking to maybe present themselves a little bit more professional on the internet. So. All right. Well, I don't see any more in the chat, so we will wrap up today, but thank you all for joining in. I am recording this, so it will be on our DMACC Work-Based Learning website for anybody to have access to. For those educators on the call, if you ever wanted access to this, you can absolutely receive that here in a couple of days. It'll probably be up. But again, thank you all for joining in. Isabel, thank you for your time. And we loved our partnership with SNS Employment Partners. Thanks, everyone.